be here with you too, Debbie, and thank you everyone. But yeah, I have actually, interestingly, a background in journalism. And then when I started my career, it was really on the data and insight side of the business, particularly on the B2B side. And I think over the years, just with the convergence of marketing becoming much more data driven, it was just very natural progression for me for my career to kind of steer in that direction. So I've always been really closely involved with marketing. And I would say I really have built my career from, I would say, being a really data driven person who also knows how to tell stories. And so I think data, without being able to really uncover what that insight is and then put it into a really compelling narrative, I think is something that has been, the skill set for me that has really gotten me to the place where I am today.
Brilliant. And we're going to go back a little bit and talk about kind of that data and how it's kind of fueled some of your strategy. But I wanted to delve a little bit into Square and how it's taken major strides to reinvigorate the exchange and processing of currency in this digital age. What is it about Square's overall vision that's underpinning your success? What are the drivers that are fueling such remarkable growth at Square?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for the question. At Square, I would say, we're an incredibly mission-driven organization. And really, the reason that we exist is that we really want to build powerful tools that help people really start, run, grow, and adapt their business across any industry. Our mission is really all around empowering businesses to be able to participate in the economy and reach business owners and consumers wherever they are. It's about leveling the playing field and making really complex things a lot easier. And so I would say, like, for us, it's really like our goal to be considered a partner for businesses that really, and this like just one-stop shop for them that really allows them to kind of work and operate their business in a really seamless way. And I think the thing for Square is that this has always been a part of what we do and our DNA. And so we are definitely always thinking about our customers. And I know everybody says that, and I would just say that it's really true at Square. So we're always thinking about our customers. We're thinking about their pain points. Like, how do we make things easier for them? And this just goes back to the origins of our company. So when Jack Dorsey and Jim McKelvey started Square, they started Square because there was this whole portion of the business community that wasn't able to take credit cards. And so they were being left out of the economy. They were missing sales. And so they really set out to do something that had never been done before. And I think for Square, like, we're always continuing to look for how can we make things easier? What do our customers need? Even if it's something that's never been done by anyone before, we're definitely willing to take on those hard challenges, always through the lens of how do we make this easier for our customers?
I think that's really interesting, because technology can be really quite confusing to lots of people, and actually technology shouldn't inhibit business and business growth, right? And fast forward to today, Square is now in many markets, processing millions of transactions on behalf of businesses. So with the impact of the pandemic in mind, Lauren, what are some of the key themes and differences from the data? And we're going back to that kind of that data story you were telling at the beginning. What are the key themes and differences from the data you're seeing come back from across the markets?
Yeah. So obviously, like, as everybody has seen, like, the world and the way every country has kind of experienced and really adapted to COVID has been different. And I would say what's remarkable, though, is that the trends that we see on our side are just really similar across all the markets. And I would say, like, to your point, Debbie, like, I think that there was a lot of intention amongst a lot of business owners for a while now to really modernize their operation. I think that what COVID did is it just forced them to do that more quickly. And I think for people that were wanting to make those changes, but maybe just a little bit nervous about what that looks like, we actually saw them do that. And I'll talk about just like a couple of key things. So number one is like the move to becoming more cashless. And this is something that we've been seeing happen like over the years, but actually across the US, Australia, Canada, and the UK, we saw the number of cashless businesses double. in the last year, so through 2020 and 2021. And I think if you think about countries like Japan and Canada, where they were so reliant on cash, like this has kind of been a good sort of accelerator for them to kind of make that move into more to more cashless transactions. And I think the other thing is just that, you know, we saw millions of business owners just really make that move online. And what we would see as a 3-year adoption cycle from kind of really taking your business from in-person to online was accelerated to 3 weeks during COVID. And so, and we see this at Square, it's just like, it's a one-way door, right? Once you kind of get your business up and running and you're offering mobile ordering, you're offering online appointment booking, people are gonna, like, that's where people want to do those things. And so that will continue to persist even as businesses and people start to kind of become more vaccinated and reemerge and start to kind of transact again more in person.
And our world, you mentioned the pandemic, right? And our world obviously functions now in an age of technology, and that was happening anyway. And between people's increasingly digitized lifestyles and the pandemic, as you were saying, Lauren, really forcing the adoption of technology at lightning speed, what would you consider to be the most prevalent challenges for yourself and others in the marketing and communications industry? I mean, the speed of which that change happened was just absolutely unprecedented. I hate saying the word, but I have said it already. It's come out of my mouth. What has your team at Square done to combat some of those obstacles, and how have you guys coped with the speed of that change?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's definitely a common challenge for everyone, which is, I mean, last year, most marketers were forced to really move at the speed of culture, which is really hard to do. And so I would say, you know, we really wanted to be communicating with our customers last year, but we felt like we wanted to be able to communicate with them in the moment that we were having. And when that moment was changing every couple of weeks, like I'm not going to lie, I think we were forced to be more agile and nimble than ever before last year. And I think now we're looking at that and saying, that was great, that was interesting. It really burned out our team. And so I think we're trying to think about, like, how do we operate in a way where we're able to be a little bit more nimble and agile, but we also know that the pace that we were working at last year isn't sustainable for everyone, and we don't want to burn people out. And so I would say it definitely was a really interesting year where we had to think about doing things super fast, but also with a lot of additional challenges, like how do you shoot a commercial when everyone's on lockdown? And so I would say, like, we definitely, you know, worked through, and technology played a huge role in that, because I was able to sit at home on my laptop and watch shoots live, which is really just incredible and amazing. And so I think it's really, I think just a true testament to what technology can enable us to do. And it was definitely critical for us and moving really fast last year.
And well done to you and the team. You've done an absolutely fantastic job, and you know, we're all seeing it and witnessing that today. I want to pivot slightly, if you don't mind, Lauren, because when we talk about kind of digital transactions, the move towards the adoption of technology, that can sometimes isolate some people. It can sometimes isolate some communities. Can you share with us how you drive Square's strategy in reaching people of all demographics and backgrounds in the countries you operate in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, you know, I think, like, to begin with, I think we try to make sure that we're showing diversity of the business owners that we feature in all of our spots and all of our content. And we do that because we want to make sure that we're representing the world that people see around them. And in reality, that, you know, when you're in your community, you're going to see business owners from all types of backgrounds. And so I think that's kind of like the table stakes for us, which is just making sure that our ads represent what people see in real life in their communities. I also think that we tend to think about this as part of our overarching strategy, but I will talk about a couple of things that we've done specifically. But I would say for us, like, we really think about, like, multicultural and the way that we want to reach these communities as just being part of all of our campaigns. And so specifically when we have broad reach, awareness, and brand initiatives, like, those are really going to a very broad audience. And then I would say, obviously, I think last year really, like, raise the level of awareness that everyone has on how everyone and all brands can do a better job of really highlighting and surfacing some minority owned businesses. And so we did do a couple of things specifically in that area. And so last year we announced that we were investing $100 million to support minority and underserved business communities. So that was one thing that we did. And we've also really leaned into content creation in this area. So we released a film series last year that was called Black Owned, where we were basically filming and showing the stories of Black business owners and the role that they play in their communities. Just like over the past couple of weeks, we've been releasing another film series called Asian Love Letters, and where we're really starting to showcase in the New York area just some of the Asian-owned businesses, the impact that COVID's had on their business, and also the role that their culture plays in really shaping their overall business strategy, and just a couple of other small things. So in Atlanta and Chicago, we had a really small activation where we had a campaign called The Future is Built Here, where we showcased Black business owners in those communities on billboards throughout the city and gave people the option through QR codes to purchase items from those business owners. And the last thing I'll mention is we just recently sponsored CultureCon, which is a conference for creatives and entrepreneurs and young professionals of color. And we subsidized the cost of tickets, so attendance was free for everybody. And then we also powered a marketplace for a lot of the creators to be able to sell their goods to other conference attendees. So we see it as both something that fits into everything that we do. And then we also have been working on some just like specific programming initiatives just to really shine a spotlight and highlight the success that we see people in our community having in those groups.
It's so wonderful to hear kind of all the programs and initiatives, Lauren, that you are spearheading, that the business is spearheading to really create more authentic connections with the people that you serve. A question actually from the audience that I'd like to pose, because I think this is a nice juncture to do it. Assuming most of your marketing efforts at Square are B2B, do influencers play a role in your marketing funnel? How, and do you have any preferred social platforms?
Yeah, so I think the thing that's interesting about Square is, yes, it is B2B, but I would say, like, I have worked in my career in consumer and B2B, and most of my like past B2B experience was much more enterprise level B2B. And so for Square, like a lot of our B2B marketing feels much more like consumer marketing than I think how most people think of B2B marketing. And so we have found that targeting business owners through like general interest sports and entertainment tends to be more effective than when we apply like specific business targeting, because some of our businesses are really small businesses. And so when you're using third-party data, they don't necessarily show up. So I just wanted to kind of call that out, because a lot of what we do feels more like consumer marketing. But on the question of influencers, I would say, yes. I mean, we do work with influencers. We tend to use sort of more micro influencers or people that are very influential within their business community. So we've worked with some like chefs in the past that are influential in the restaurant community. And Square obviously has solutions that serve multiple verticals. So we try to work with influencers within those specific industries, if that's a tattoo artist or somebody in the beauty industry or a restaurant owner or a retailer. And we probably, like most brands, have started to really experiment with TikTok and influencers there. And so I think that there's like a lot more that we can and should be doing in that vein, but we've also used influencers across social channels, Instagram, Twitter. And so we definitely do use influencers. And I anticipate that that will probably be an area that we continue to actually do more in, just because we know that small business owners really look to other business owners who are doing similar things to them. And they really like consider that sort of endorsement or advice from people that have been in their shoes to be one of the most powerful ways of getting advice on how they should run their own business. So I think there's probably even more opportunity for Square to lean in that area. That's a great question. Thank you.
It's a really good question, because actually I think I love everything that you're saying, Lauren. I think just regardless of the size of the business, you know, we're all people. And so connecting to people in a really human, authentic and relevant way kind of really works. So I thought that was a really brilliant question. Thank you, Tiffany, for asking. Lauren, in terms of creativity, innovation, and commerce, what can we expect from Square over the next year or so? And what do you think is going to be the future for the world of digital financing?
Yeah, so that's also a really good question. And I think I mentioned this before, but I would say like we really see our role at Square is just making complex things much easier. And so when I think about the future and what the future holds for the business community, I think that, we're very focused on easing the omni-channel selling experience. So I think that's something that we see a lot of business owners struggling with. So they're selling online, they're selling in person, but then do they have an inventory management system that allows them to sort of sync both of those things and see all those things in one place? We want to focus on that. I would say in the restaurant industry, obviously delivery has saved many restaurants in the past year. But what's really complicated is if you've ever been in the kitchen of a restaurant, you can see that they probably have 4 or 5 tablets in their kitchen from all of their different delivery systems. And last year, Square built a kitchen display system that integrates orders from all of those various platforms, as well as what's happening in person. And these are some of the things that I think just make the lives of these business owners, like if you're in a really busy kitchen and you've got orders coming in from 5 different platforms and you have diners in person, it can be really hard to manage the timing of the delivery to make sure that you have all the food that people are ordering. And so those are the things I think that Square really focuses on, is like, how do we make all those things easier on the back end? And then I would say, when you're running a business, like time is everything. And so we really try to make it as easy as possible. Like you can run your payroll from your point of sale. You're able to get a loan through your point of sale. You're able to do all of these things, send invoices, track in real time, like how your business is performing. And I think like we're trying to do all of that in the easiest way possible. And just a fun story, but I have 2 kids, and a couple of years ago, I went to my son, he's in 5th grade now, but he was in 3rd grade at the time. And we had all the 3rd graders create their own business and set up and sell items in our point of sale. And so just wanted to say, like, we really try to make it so easy that even 3rd graders can do it. And I think the next thing for us is really thinking about just like cohesion with partners, right? I mean, I think there's things that Square can provide, and we're really building out our API capabilities that allow developers and other platforms to really build on top of ours so that we're able to offer our larger businesses even more complex solutions to better meet their needs.
I'm just like blown away, Lauren, with all the great things that you guys are doing at Square, and also how simple you make technology seem. And I think you've actually hit the nail on the head, which is, businesses want to do business. They don't want to spend time having to sort out kind of their back office and their engine in order to do that. And I think where Square is going is absolutely kind of really fueling that growth for not only your business, but other businesses, which is absolutely key in this time. We started our conversation hearing a bit about you, Lauren. I'd love to ask you what you've personally learned over the last 12 to 18 months, and kind of what are those key learnings that you're going to take into next year?
Yeah. So much. I mean, I'm sure every marketer will say this, but last year was hard. There was no playbook. And I would say I learned a lot. Number one, I would say, is being at a mission-driven company during a difficult time was really, honestly, probably one of the hardest, but best experiences of my career. And so I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to be at Square, where we really care about helping these business owners succeed. And I felt like I saw everyone come together, and it really, I would say, united the team in a way that I thought was just really amazing. And everybody had to pivot quickly. We had to accelerate things on our timeline. We had to get things into market and market them quickly. And I would just say overall, I was incredibly impressed with the way that we were able to really come together and say, what are we going to do to help our customers? Because when they succeed, we succeed, and we really want to help them succeed. And we knew that this would be a hard time for them. So I would say, like, that's probably something that I knew going into Square, is that I really wanted to work at a mission-driven company. And something that I've learned after the pandemic is that it actually, I think, is critical. And for me, is something that will always be a must-have. I would say, I think everyone had to kind of lean on their intuition last year. So I think I probably learned to trust myself a little bit more. I'm not going to lie. There was times where I didn't know what we should do and how we should handle what was about to come down. We had to make really big decisions really quickly. And I think overall, like we made a lot of good decisions last year. We definitely learned some things along the way, but I would say like I'm really proud of how Square showed up for our customers. And I think just continuing to remember why you're there and what you do and put your customers first and foremost is the best guiding light that you can have as a marketer and as a brand to figure out what you should do next.
That's really humbling to hear, Lauren. I love hearing all about it. I'm going to open the floor to the guys that have dialed in today. If you do have any questions, please put it in the Q&A, and we'll pose that to Lauren. If you've got any thoughts, questions, please do ask. Give it a couple of minutes. Just making sure that I can see them all. Okay, one here. Lauren, what ways is your brand working to stand out in the eye of the consumer? That's a really good question, because it is a competitive marketplace, right, Lauren? And yeah, it's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think especially in our industry that's gotten just like even more competitive over the last couple of years. And so I would say for us, there's probably a few things. So I think for us, like what's always been the backbone of what we do is really in our storytelling and how we tell stories. And so we are always sort of like putting, I think sharing what we want people to feel about our brand through our customers and through their stories. And I think that's something that I've seen Square always do and continue to do. We've seen other brands try to replicate that in some cases. And I think we do it more authentically because we've been doing it for a really long time. So that's one thing that we'll continue to do. One of the other things that we worked on last year, which is, we've got so many components of our business, was just creating a brand design system, which crazy enough, we never really had before. And so we really looked at all the things that are out there, and I'm really proud of the work that our team has done. I think just in terms of animation and styles that we want to use, and really trying to create a really unique look and feel for our brand that's consistent across a lot of things that we're doing. So I think those are probably two of the ways. And I think also just, we just keep trying new things, and we're always experimenting, and we're thinking about where people are showing up. I mean, this is, I think, part of what I consider my job, which is to really follow the trends of where consumers are spending time and how they're interacting with brands, and then finding ways for Square to really show up authentically in those places.
Thank you, Lauren. And I think the next question actually dovetails really nicely into that, which is, what is your favorite marketing campaign that you've worked on?
That's always the hard question, but I want to say, because it's
like choosing a child, right? Choosing
it is, and it's hard for me not to have recency bias. Like I think like some of the new things that our team has coming out are some of the best things that I've seen. But I think I want to say that last year was the first year that we ever did a brand campaign. And so it was our first global brand campaign. We were supposed to do our first global brand campaign, and we ended up pulling it down 2 weeks before, because it was like it was supposed to come out right when everything started to shut down with the pandemic. And what we ended up doing over the summer last year it was an audio story television campaign where we had our business owners just telling their stories of how they were making it through the pandemic. So again, I think when it comes down to like, how do you shoot a commercial when everyone's on lockdown? And we basically used like photo collage in a video asset, and it actually started as an organic social idea where we listed a 1-800 number on our social channels and said, like, we want to hear your stories, call us and tell us like how things have been going for you. And it was so overwhelming, the response. And we started as a really scrappy idea on social with just like a black and white picture of the business owner and a clip of them talking. And that actually ended up evolving into our first ever brand campaign. And we featured the stories of 6 Square merchants, and honestly, their stories were so incredible, and the resilience and strength that they showed. And so I think for me, that's probably one of my favorite campaigns, because I think we just gave them like a really broad stage to share their incredible story. And it was really inspiring, I think, for everybody, but most especially just the entire small business community.
I really love that. And you spoke a little earlier about some of the challenges and learnings that you've had over the last year and a half. What is one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self as a CMO now? One of my favorite questions, guys, so thank you for asking.
That's a good question. I think I would probably tell my younger self a few things. Number one is probably like to trust myself more. I think it took a while for me in my career. Like it can be really scary. And I think when you get to be a CMO, there isn't anybody else that's really calling the shots. So you have to really trust your intuition. But I would say like learning how to trust my intuition earlier on in my career is something that I would probably tell my younger self to do. And I think the other piece is just, and I tell this to people that are on my team now all the time, which is, it's not personal. And so when people are critiquing work or critiquing ideas, they're not critiquing you. They're just critiquing ideas. And I actually feel like as I've gotten older and more tenured in my career, I actually love hearing divergent perspectives. And I know that it makes us better and stronger. And so I probably would have told my younger self to listen a little bit more and to really hear what people were saying when they were disagreeing or having a divergent perspective. And I think today, those conversations are the ones that lead us to the best work and the best outcomes. And so it does require like a little bit of confidence and tough skin, but I would say like, I see a lot of people taking that kind of feedback really personally. And I always say, it's never about you, it's about the work. And when you can listen objectively to what someone's saying, it will hands down make your work better. There's just no question about it.
I really like how you explain, Lauren, kind of the pivot and the change as you get more experience, as you get, I guess, more braver in your thinking. And I love that piece of advice around really listening to people, listening to diverse ideas and thoughts, and how that can influence getting to a better product. As a leader, you're always developing your abilities. What skills would you like your marketing team to develop in the next year?
That is a really good question. I think I would love for just, I don't know if it's a skill necessarily, but I'll say a trait that I look for is curiosity. And so I think that like the way that I think about things is that even when things are going well, there could always be another way or a different way. And so I would say I just would love to encourage people to be endlessly curious and to always be thinking about like, this is going well, but could it be better? Could we do something in a different way? Like if this has been working well for us for a while, should we change it up? Should we do something new? And so I think for me, it's really just encouraging people to not get complacent, even when everything, I think when your business is in a winning position and things are going well, is that actually the best time to be able to take chances and to take risks. And so I would say I definitely would love to see my team continue to just like embrace their inner curiosity and take risks and try new things and not be scared of failing, because you're going to learn a lot in any opportunity that you try that doesn't go the way that you expect it to.
So you talked about trusting your gut, taking risks. We also spoke about being data-driven. And one of the questions that the audience has asked is around the types of data, insights, and research that you guys have. How do you ingest that to make better marketing decisions?
That's a great question. So thank you. These are great questions, everyone. Thank you so much for these great questions. So I would say on that one, there's a couple of different things. So I'll talk about insights first, and then we'll talk about data. But I would say on the insights front, I think last year in particular, like we were talking to our customers all the time. We talked to them early on when the pandemic, when things were just starting to shut down, to understand like, how are they feeling? What are they thinking about? I think one of the things that we learned early on is that that a lot of business owners weren't that concerned early on, and we didn't want to be alarmist in that. And so we really, I think, like, keep our ear to the ground, talking to our customers constantly, even now, right? We're getting into recovery. How are people feeling? What are you worried about? What are you excited about? How can we help? And so I would say we're definitely, like, always interacting and speaking to our customers. And we really use that to help set the tone for our overall strategy. Like, should our tone be serious? Should we be excited? Do we want to be optimistic? We don't want to be too optimistic if people have a lot of concerns. And so I would say, like, from an overall, like, we use a lot of insights to inform how people are feeling, what's most important to them. And that sets the stage for, like, our overarching strategy and the messaging and the tone. And then I would say on the data front, we are an incredibly data-driven organization. And so I think we have probably a best-in-class, incredible marketing analytics and marketing data engineer organization. And so we use data to really help us think about who are the customers that we want to target, to help us optimize our campaigns. And I would say the big thing that I've focused on since I got to Square, so Square has always had an incredibly strong performance marketing engine, just a machine of a customer acquisition flywheel. And when I came to Square, that was going really well, but my hypothesis was that there were so many products and solutions that we offered business owners that they didn't know about, and that we could actually accelerate the pace of growth by increasing awareness. And so that's been a big area for focus of us. And I think we're now trying to think about how do we connect the dots between all of our different marketing strategies. And as we increase our spend on awareness, which we see as a more long-term investment strategy, we've done a lot with data, with our data science partners, to develop machine learning models to help us with targeting. And that's actually made our performance marketing even more efficient. So we've been able to sort of increase spend, increase in more long-term things, but then optimize our lower funnel metrics, like, to be even more precise. And that has enabled us to continue just to, like, scale our spend and invest more without losing too much efficiency. So we definitely, data is a huge component of how we do all of that.
And Lauren, you spoke about the rate of that, the pace of that change, right? And how that's happened at breakneck speed over the last 12 months, 18 months. So we talked about that challenge. What do you think is going to be the next challenge for you guys?
What did you say the first challenge was? Sorry.
So I was just saying that, the challenge of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Pivoting and just the work rate for you and the team to pivot the business and support the smaller businesses that rely on your technology, right? And also expand the innovation and the technology to help those businesses, grow in such challenging times. So coming out of the pandemic, what do you think is going to be the next challenge for you guys?
I mean, I would say for us, I think for a lot of business owners, what we're learning is that for them, like, it doesn't feel like the pandemic is over yet. I think that they're still trying to figure things out. And so I think we'll continue to be looking for ways to really support them, as obviously the world is opening up again, but it's been a long time. And so I think people are really just starting to come out of that right now. And they still have concerns about whether they're going to be able to kind of keep their business up and running based on just, like, how difficult the past 18 months have been. So we'll continue to do what we've been doing, which is really educating them, helping them, and trying to just make sure that we're surfacing all the ways that we can help them do that. And then I think for us, the other big challenge as just a brand is that we're starting to really scale globally. And I think for us, like, we just launched in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, and we're continuing to really expand globally. And that's going to be kind of just, like, I think for us, will represent a new challenge and a new pace of growth. We have been in the markets that we've been in for a couple of years. I think our goal was really to make sure that we had great product market fit in all of those markets before we really started to accelerate. And I think for us now, we're at this really interesting point in time where we're really going to accelerate our global expansion plans. And I think that will really challenge us as a team to think about, how do we operate at that scale? How do we do things in a way that are really global in nature, that still sort of support the local nuances and authenticity of all the markets that we enter, but also maintain some level of brand consistency and create a global identity? And I think for us, like, that's going to be a really fun challenge that I'm looking forward to, but I know that it's going to be hard. Just to kind of figure, even just going into Ireland this year, we learned a ton about global expansion, how far in advance we need resources to be helping us set those things up. I think we learned that we were incredibly under-resourced. I think just like working backwards in terms of what we needed to stand up a new market. And so I think that's the big thing for us that's really coming next in terms of what will that challenge be.
And that's a great challenge to have, right, Lauren? Is
yes,
growth,
yes,
right?
Super excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to just say thank you to everyone that's joined us today. These were really great questions and really built upon, Lauren's strong narrative around Square and everything it's doing to enable small businesses to really thrive. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to host the conversation. And it's been really wonderful to witness that phenomenal growth of Square. And I, for one, will absolutely continue to look out for all of your future